There's still a lot of unanswered questions surrounding Starfield, but some of these at least may be getting answered next week. Bethesda have announced a Q&A taking place on Discord where they will be giving answers to players' questions. Now, with around 3 weeks left until early access of the game, this couldn't be coming at a better time. So if you're quick, you might still have enough time to submit your questions, which need to be in place by the 11th of August. Meanwhile, I have a few things that I'd like to know about, so if you're interested in my rambling questions, do stick around. Some of these should be pretty interesting. Let's start with space. One of the things I've been wondering right since the start is whether or not free flight will be available in space. That is to say, are players able to fly from planet to planet directly under their own control, or another way of putting this is the entire star system explorable in your spaceship. Now, I must admit, based upon what we've seen at least, it does seem that this is most likely. However, I don't think it's been confirmed just yet, so the other alternative could be that space might be restricted to regions contained around planets and other bodies such as space stations. If this was to be the case, then it would mean a transition of some type between these different regions. Either way, it's definitely something I'm very interested in finding out, perhaps my top question overall. Moving on, we got another subject about different planetary bodies, specifically with gas giants. Now, within Starfield's footage so far, we've seen worlds of all types. These can be rocky worlds, barren worlds, and other planets teeming with life, whether flora, fauna, or both. But one thing we don't know about is whether or not we can actually interact with gas giants. We know that gas giants do exist within the game. They form the backdrops of some of the footage we've seen. They're also present on the system map. Some of these have rather stunning looking planetary rings around them, and it seems as though it will be possible to get inside of those rings based upon the various asteroids that we've seen in different locations. But as for the gas giants themselves, well, we don't know just how close we can get to them. It should be pretty obvious, I guess, that we won't be able to land down on the surface of these worlds as, well, they are gas giants. But just maybe we can interact with the surface layer of them, those gaseous clouds, those areas that could perhaps be full of various different materials and other things to scoop up. So the question here, will players be able to interact with gas giants in any way? Sticking with the subject of planets for a bit longer, I'd like to know a bit more about planetary sizes. Now, we do know there's a whole range of planets as we've just discussed. There's also a whole range of moons as well. So all of these are definitely different sizes in relation to each other. But one thing we don't have just yet is any information at all on the actual physical size of these worlds. It seems obvious that they're not going to be real-world one-to-one scale planets. You're not going to get the full-sized Earth here. At least to me that seems very unlikely. But what I would like to know is just how big these worlds are going to be. I guess another way of putting this is that I'd like to know the actual size of the respective maps for each planet. The next set of questions I have may seem a little bit out there because they don't really relate to anything we've actually seen confirmed. But something I'd like to know is about mechs. We do know that mechs exist within the world of Starfield. We've seen them in the background, all stationary of course. But we've also seen them in action in one of the animated episodes that was released just recently. Now, personally, I don't think it's a great idea to use these animated episodes as confirmation of anything that may or may not be in the game. But that said, mechs clearly are present within the world, and so I'd like to know what purpose and what function they actually serve. Are they merely background assets, just there to bring some life to the game world? Or will they be usable by NPCs and we'll see them actively going around doing a variety of different tasks? The big outside question though would be whether or not players can get their hands on these mechs and actually use them. That seems pretty unlikely at this point, as Bethesda haven't said or shown anything about that, but it's not entirely outside the realm of possibility. So yeah, the question here, we know mechs exist in the game world in some form. The question is, what function do they actually serve? And now we come on to the questions about modding, and we'll know that at some point in the future, the not too distant future, modding is going to be a big thing for Starfield. And yes, Todd Howard has quite a while ago confirmed that Starfield will actually support modding. The question is though, in what manner will it support it? There's a big question about the whole Xbox and Windows Store version. For anyone who's downloaded a Windows copy of a game before from the Xbox Store, well, you'll know that the game files tend to be locked away in folders that are inaccessible. And this in turn could make, and very likely will make, modding very difficult. The story will be very different for the Steam version, where generally the folders are entirely accessible and players can do with those folders whatever they want. The question here then is, will modding for PC on the version of Starfield that comes from the Xbox Store be restricted in any way compared to the Steam version? The second question I have about this is, how will modding be supported across the two different platforms? Now, we know that Starfield is going to be a Play Anywhere title, and that means cross-saves are entirely possible. You're about to play on PC and then pick up from the same save when you move over to Xbox, and vice versa. But whilst cross-save is possible, cross-modding is an entirely different situation indeed. Mods are generally far easier to install on PC than they are on Xbox. There's also a far greater range of mods available for most games on PC than the Xbox counterparts. And that could pose some problems. For example, if you installed a few mods on PC, save the game, and then head on over to Xbox, what's going to happen? It's very likely you might end up with some save incompatibilities. So I'm very curious how Bethesda are going to handle this. Yes, the situation isn't entirely unprecedented. We've seen mod support for Fallout 4, but well, Starfield is newer and things have moved on since Fallout 4. The third question I have about modding is whether or not there will be direct in-game mod support, similar to Fallout 4, or perhaps a better example would be Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm not talking about paid mods here or a paid marketplace, but rather the ability to directly add and access mods from within the game. Either way it goes, it's probably unlikely that Bethesda are going to talk about modding too much before the game launches. They're going to want players to be focused on the vanilla version of the game, what you get included with the purchased experience. Modding support generally comes a little bit later, discussions of that, I mean. Do let me know what you're interested in knowing about in the comments section below. Are there any questions that you haven't had answered yet about Starfield that have really kind of playing on your mind a little bit, things that you'd just like to know? Or are you happy with everything that you've heard so far? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.